Welcome to Not a Great Whisperer podcast, where we interview ordinary people living extraordinary lives. I'm your host, Katy Rey, a fierce leader in the community, empowering you to be exactly who you are and own your story. We are welcomed with the beautiful, the handsome Jim Hardwick today, but also beautiful Hardwick today, who I had the pleasure of meeting through a mutual friend of ours. Thanks for joining.
Well, thanks, Katy. I've never been called beautiful.
You are also beautiful.
After this, I'm going back to bed because it can't get any better than this.
Has your day been complete? You're welcome. Jim is beautiful. I can't wait to post his picture so everybody knows how to. So we connected with nonprofit world, but also sales leadership. But if I met you on the side, like if I just ran into you and I was like, who's Jim? How would you describe yourself?
Well, just so we get past the beautiful part, I'm bald and glasses, so I pretty much look like an emoji. So that will take out what I look like. So we can visualize that as you're listening to this podcast, an emoji speaking. I have been in sales and sales leadership for about 40 years, and I'm currently a fractional outsourced VP of sales. So I help organizations that are in sales pain that need sales help. However, that's just part of who I am. And it's a part of that goes to my whole core about serving and giving. When you've been in sales for that long as a fractional salesperson, now I can go in and help companies that are in sales pain, companies that need help. They need sales process, strategy, comp plan, CRM, all the things that business owners struggle with. And I'm a sales builder, and I go in and I fix it. The way I explain and how I serve is in really the root of who we are and who I've evolved to is my wife and I have a nonprofit called Hardwick Foundation. And we started this in 2019. That's after we went to Kenya and on safari in 2018. And I'll explain where this gets me. But we were asked, we had an opportunity to go to Kenya on a safari in 2018. Now, we like to travel, but Africa wasn't even on our bucket lists, if you can imagine. And that sounds so crazy, but we went there. And we went on a trip, and we were a special safari camp. And because of people that took us there, we got to go to a school and we got to go to a clinic. I've been in healthcare for 36 years in the sales side, distribution, medical devices, SaaS software, payment space. My wife's a dental hygienist. So the root of the story is when we were there, after we went to the school, we went to a clinic, which is a cinder block building with 2 rooms. They have a physician assistant, and this area is out in the bush. It's primarily the tribe that there's the Maasai people. And the average income in this area is $1,000 a year, not a month, a year. Can you imagine? $2.74 a day, which is less than a Starbucks coffee. And so I walked out of the clinic, and because I've been in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hospitals throughout the country, I understand healthcare. And I asked our guide, his name is Derek, and I said, Derek, do they ever bring dental teams through here? And Derek said, no dental. We get medical teams come through, but no dental. And I said, well, Derek, is there even a need? And he points to his tooth and goes, I've got a cavity right here. And at that point, Katy, it came to me, you're bringing a dental team back. And to go back a little bit further, I had been looking for the last 10 years of how do you create a life of significance in your second half of your life. I read a book by Bob Buford called Halftime. It's what you do once the kids are grown, once you've established in your career and you're in a different phase. And so when he said no, and that came to me through God, the Maasai chiefs, the Mother Nature, it came to me and it said, I'm bringing a dental team back. Bam. My wife's standing next to me and she doesn't say anything. We go back to our tent at the safari camp, which is glamping. We're not sleeping on the floor. We actually have running water, toilet, and a shower. And I said, Jodi, would you come alongside me? I want to bring a dental team back. And pivotal question, because if she says no, I'm out, I can't do the work. She says absolutely. 10 months later, Katy, we brought our first team back. We set up in a tent and we saw 191 patients. Now, that was 2019. Fast forward, we just got back from our fourth trip in March. And in 4 days, we saw 291 patients, extracted 203 teeth, did 1,244 procedures, and 69% of everybody we saw was in dental pain. So that's who we are today. And I was just on a call this morning with a contractor because we are starting our capital fundraising to build a clinic to create sustainability in that area. Mm-hmm. And for your listeners, have you ever had a toothache? When we have a toothache, we run to the dentist in about 2 seconds. If you get a cavity fill and your teeth don't even match, you know how that little part step out and you say, go have it grinded, and it just irritates you. Can you imagine walking around with a toothache for 3 or 4 months because you don't have access or you can't afford it? Or the alternative is you go down to somebody with a pair of pliers and they crank the tooth off and hopefully it doesn't become infected. That's the world they live. And so we are striving. We'll continue to do our clinic each year. Next year, we're going to go to Northern Kenya also. So we have 2 teams. But having that dental established clinic, not the pop-up, but the established clinic, will just make a big, big difference because it's about accessibility, sustainability, and we'll be able to educate. And if we can educate the children, who can educate the parents, it's going to be wonderful. So, yeah, I'm a sales guy. There's a million of us out there.
So many.
But I'm also somebody that believes in serving. And when I talk about what that looks like, I serve my clients, I serve the global community. And it's a real mindset because I used to think, why go to Africa when there's so much need here in the United States? But because of our travels, I really believe we're a global world, and the world becomes smaller and smaller every year. And we just have a heart for helping others that have nothing.
And I mean, just with gut health and brain health and everything, I can't imagine talking to some of the people that you've served and how it's changed their whole mood, symptoms of like headaches, just feeling like I can't even imagine because everything starts right here.
Yes.
It's just like, oh my gosh.
We had a 10-year-old little boy, and these kids don't come with parents. You know, they show up, and it's not like United States where if our children went to the dentist at 10 and came home and said, Mom, they pulled my tooth, you would call the attorney, you would call the doctor, you would talk about insurance. Yeah. None of that exists. They believe that community raises up their children. Wow. So this 10-year-old little boy came, whole side of his face is swollen. And obviously he's in pain. Yeah. He's got an abscess in his teeth, his tooth, his mouth. And if he doesn't get that taken care of, that abscess breaks loose. He might not see his 11th birthday. And that's not over dramatization. That could be fact. Because we can do what we do, we have a portable x-ray machine there in our pop-up clinic, and we were able to see the doctors diagnose. They pull the tooth, give him an antibiotic. In a couple of weeks, he'll be fine. He'll be fine. And it's just such a blessing to be able to help these people who have nothing. And it's like you said, you can't even imagine what that's like. And to see the smiles on their face, we get sometimes the opportunity to see the smiles on their face the next day. And it just talks about how it just has changed their whole disposition.
I'm assuming they don't have Advil and they have a headache from a toothache, right?
No.
Of course, no access. So you're just consistently dealing with the pain. Like toothaches are a headache. Like it's just to think about that and to know how important our mouth is and being healthy. And I love it. I think it's amazing. I think it's great that it happened after you read the book too. What was it? Halftime?
It's called Halftime by Bob Buford. Yeah. Because, it all came to fruition. I'm looking to how to serve at the local school down the street that deals with difficult boys. You know, they go there and they live and they go to school and, doing this and doing that. Where does it end up? Africa.
Yeah, I know.
Africa. It takes us 30 hours to get there, mind you. So that's a journey in itself. But if I can stress, and the biggest thing I want to stress is everybody has the opportunity to serve. And people will say to me, Jim, I can't go to Africa to serve. But they're missing the point. The point is looking for opportunities to serve, looking for that friend that needs to be heard, that needs an ear, bringing the garbage cans in for your neighbors that are elderly on a stormy day or just whenever. Those are opportunities to serve that make a big difference. And here's the secret. The secret is when you serve others, it comes back to you tenfold. It's amazing how that works. It's not science. It's just the nature, God, the universe. We are so blessed, my wife and I, and we don't do this for notoriety. We don't do this for accolades, but we do this because we can, and it makes a difference. Can I share one story with you?
Please share it all.
So there's one of the things at the Maasai in the safari camp, it's called Saruni Base Camp. They're dynamic safari camp. They sponsor us for room and board. They also have they work with the Maasai women. They call mamas, and they help them and establish, and they make necklaces and bracelets through beading. And there's a leathersmith there. His name's Oscar, and he does great leather work. And he's in a wheelchair. And Oscar is, I think, 34 years old. He has a family. But just being in a wheelchair in this area is phenomenal because the roads are like going across Mars. So he comes a couple miles a day in a wheelchair so he can do his leather work. And so 2 years ago, Jodi and I, we always stay longer for business when the team goes home. And so we went up to where they were doing their beading, and you could buy things up there. We were looking for some gifts. And we talked to Oscar, and he says, well, I don't think that's not up here, but follow me and we'll go down to where we have dinner, and there's a little shop down there. So he takes his wheelchair and he starts off down. He's down the path. And I'm looking at this wheelchair. This wheelchair has got, wire and rope and just being held together by strings. And I'm thinking, this guy needs a new wheelchair. And so we go back and we talk to Oscar, and then we go back to Nairobi the next day, and we meet with kind of like the corporate office for the base camp. And I said to the leader, the CEO, I said, Jodi and I like to buy a wheelchair for Oscar. Could you please let us do some research and let us know? And they said, sure. So a couple of weeks later, they say, we found a wheelchair for Oscar. Do you want us to just present it to him, or should we ask him about it? And I said, no, you need to ask Oscar if this is what he wants, because these are his legs. I don't want to give him a wheelchair that we think is the right wheelchair. And he goes, oh, that's horrible. So they said to Oscar, here's a picture of the wheelchair. He goes, that's my dream wheelchair. Okay, here's the point of the story is the wheelchair was $250. Katy, I could buy him a wheelchair every year for the next till I die. $250. There's times we're filling up our gas tanks for $100. And it's not about, oh, look how great they were. They gave $250 and gave this guy a wheelchair. It's that we paid attention to somebody that needed help, and we're able to change his life by providing that wheelchair for him to make his life better. It's just, it's so simple. They have so little, and we are blessed with so much that it just makes a huge, huge difference in their lives. So that's the point about serving.
Was he so excited to get it?
Oh, yeah. Well, we saw him again this year, and he was just smiling from ear to ear. Of course he was excited because the other wheelchair was horrible.
It was a dream wheelchair.
Yeah. At first,
I think it's just pay attention, open our eyes. Like, that's it. Open your eyes.
Think if everybody got up every day and said, how can I serve one other person?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. The world would change.
I know.
And you know what? There are so many millions of people that are great. Their hearts are pure. The problem with our society, not to get too philosophical, but because of social media, the news, all we see are the negatives. And it's really sad. Mm-hmm. We've traveled a lot of countries. 99.6% of everybody I've ever come across are wonderful people.
Yeah. And
And
you're right. I always tell the kids, look for the good. That's everywhere.
and I'm not naive. I mean, there's bad people in this world,
100%.
but so many people do so many good things in this world. And I've always wanted to start a news program. Let's talk about what's good today.
Yes, there is a one. I think it's called Tank's News, and he does all good news, and it's really cool stories. And I'm going to send it to you after this.
Please, thank you for sharing that, because my word, you can get into that rabbit hole of
Real heavy. Yeah.
it's so sad and
Mhm.
misinformation. And we just got to look at what's right. You know how when you're in the world, you always think, this is horrible. What's going on with these people? And I like to say, well, I got a feeling, because whenever you're in it, you always feel like it's the worst time. During the Roman crusade, when they were burning people and they're burning villages and hanging the husbands up by the trees, I got a feeling the women in the village were going, man, this is a tough time to be alive. Just like, now we're going, oh, look at all the demonstrations, look at this and look at that and the wars. Whenever you're in it, it always feels like it's the worst. And we'll look back 10 years from now and go, it wasn't quite as bad.
We got through it. Yeah. And it's not even being like toxic positivity. It's just like there's good. You have to see good.
Exactly.
And life's never just easy breezy. And I love that you're sales. I'm from sales background too. So running teams, sales teams, I always wanted to serve my teams. I always have a people over everything mindset. I'd like to make people smile. But I love that that's your story too. Cause you see Jim, he's this like badass sales guy. And then he's like, oh, I also bring dental. I totally bring free dental services to Kenya. And you're like, oh, okay. And he's like, I'm also a VP of sales. But forget about that. Nobody cares. That's not the sexy part. We serve people.
Well, and it shows you the same way for what you do in your nonprofit. It just shows who you are. And you don't get this way. I once heard a statistic like 1% of 1% or 0.5% of 1% of people who dream about having a nonprofit actually ever bring it to fruition.
Yeah.
And I think you and I are similar. We don't know what we don't know. We just go 100 miles an hour and we hope it sticks. Ours has stuck, and we continue to stick because we don't know. Mm-hmm. We just, and nobody's going to tell us no, because a lot of people, when it gets hard, you stop. Mm-hmm. You got to persevere, folks. Not everything's just given to you. It's going to be on a silver platter. Doing this nonprofit, we've had some ups and downs. We've had some people that have volunteered before that have been very difficult, that we've learned how to vet the right people to know that they have the same hearts we have. Yeah. And it can be, and you learn that. I've also had to learn how to work with volunteers, because in the corporate world, let's take them out and let's go.
You're motivated with money and all. Yeah. 100%.
And you're going, and they can say what they want to say, but eventually when you talk and you're the leader, they're going to get in line, and we're going to go take that mountain. I have learned to round off my edges and to be more collaborative. And instead of saying,
let's go,
let's break for lunch at 12. It's like, hey, what do you guys think? Is it okay if we break for lunch at noon? Is that work for everybody? As far as I'm concerned, that's a waste of time that I have to spend saying that, because we need to break for lunch at noon. But working with volunteers, it's me learning how to be respectful, learning how to work with volunteers. So I've had to grow, Katy, my own way. And I've had tremendous growth in that department because I'm just driven. Yeah. And I've had to slow down and back up a little bit. And so I love continually growing and learning from these types of experiences, because believe me, I got enough issues, that every time I can improve on them, it's a positive thing.
Oh yeah. And I mean, that's what makes a good leader. So, okay. So what's your big goal? Is to have the clinic. Are you going to be there half a year? Is it something that you'll be there longer when you go? Like, what is that vision for you?
Yeah, we will still do our pop-up clinics, probably end up doing two, one in Northern Kenya and one where we always go, which is free access. We'll build our dental clinic, and my dream is to be there 3 or 4 months at a time.
Well,
Yeah, my wife doesn't want to be there that long because we have 5 grandkids, coming on 6 grandkids soon, but we might space it out a couple times throughout the year. But I do want to live there. It's just a different mindset.
yeah.
With these people have very little, but they're happy.
Oh,
They don't have the depression, the anxiety, the just all the stuff that we have. Do they struggle? Absolutely. But do they live life to their fullest? You know it. And it's just a freedom when you go over there, and they're so wonderful. And so that's why I want to be a part of that and help lift up that community. So that's the dream. So hopefully we can get it built, start building in 25, and then 26 lock and load.
And then, so who's are you, Grandpa Jim? What's your who is Grandpa Jim? Describe to me, Grandpa.
I'm Papa.
Papa, of course you are.
Yeah, Papa. My wife's name is Jodi, and they call her JoJo, which is perfect. And she's like 5 times nicer than I'll ever be. It's JoJo's perfect, and she's a dental hygiene whisperer. She's like an angel when it comes to people and treating them for dental care. As a hygienist, she's retired in October, but she'll have people leave the state of Arizona where we live. They'll move out, but they'll fly back in order for her to clean their teeth.
Oh.
That's the relationship she builds. Because when you go to the dentist, who do you see? You see your hygienist.
All the time. Yeah.
You see your dentist for 5 minutes as he comes and taps. Now, if you need a crown, if you need a filling, you're going to spend time with the dentist. They're fantastic. And she works for a fantastic dentist who's been with us on 3 of our trips.
Oh, cool.
And so, yeah, she's JoJo. So we make a pretty good team. We've been married.
Running
We've
around.
been married 39 years.
So cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you.
How many kids?
I have 2 boys and 6 grandkids. But one's in the oven, but 6 grandkids. And they're the best. I love my boys, but I really love my grandkids. It's incredible.
I know. Please, watching the grandparents is ridiculous. I'm like, I can't. Like, you guys are weak. Okay, I'm just going to throw that out there. You're weak.
Of course we are.
Okay, you are nothing like we were growing up.
No, it's what do you want? You can have it.
The worst. I'm like, what is happening here? What?
Well, once we walk away, it's your problem.
I know. And then you laugh in the background. And I'm like, what? I love that. So where can we find everything about the nonprofit?
HardwickFoundation.org. HardwickFoundation.org. HARDWICK. And that's our website. We're just updating it now from our last trip. And what I ask, if people have a heart to serve, if you have people that listen that are in the dental world, give us a call, touch base with us. Maybe you can volunteer with us. We're always looking for great volunteers. Let people know we exist. Mm-hmm. We look for prayers. We look for donations. It's all 100% of everything that's been given to us goes there. We don't take any salary. We raise all our money through families and friends and manufacturers. And so it's one of those nonprofits that we don't have any employees. It's just us.
Yeah, it's all volunteers.
Yeah, it's, that's what we do. And we spend hours and hours and hours and hours because that's who we are. The funny thing is we have so many dental supplies in our master bedroom. And if that doesn't speak romance, I don't know what does. It's hilarious.
For all the couples out there.
Eventually we got to get that stuff out of there so we can
bring it to the bedroom. You're welcome. You're welcome. So, okay, on a day where you have like maybe a speaking event or you're in front of the team or you're in front of what's like your hype? Is it a music? Is it a book? Is it a quote? Is it like, what gets Jim hyped?
What gets me hyped is talking to people. I'll be honest with you. I feed off of people, and I can be down, not down, but normal. But when I get talking to people, that's where I get my energy from.
Yes. Okay.
And then when I can impart my wisdom, knowledge, and experience and see that I'm able to help move the needle on their success, then I get really jazzed. And by the time I'm done with that conversation, it's like, yes, it was wonderful. And that's what drives me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
I'm almost samesies. Other people's energy, like in a room, I can feed off people's energy. I get hyped.
And I'm pretty much considered high energy, passionate, but it's also a fault sometimes because, some days you just are just not that. And then people will look at you and they go, are you okay?
Are you okay?
Feeling
And I'm
okay?
like, can I just be calm today?
Yeah. It's like, yeah, I just need to, I just need to breathe.
Gosh, you're so right. I hate that. It happened to me the other day. I hate that.
And you're just, because you can't always be on, and it's who I am, but yet you also have to just live.
Yeah, and just soak in stuff sometimes and not be like the hype person. I feel that.
Yeah, it's like a comedian. Most comedians don't get off stage and all they do is crack jokes all day.
Yeah, I totally agree with beautiful Jim today. Okay, so hardwickfoundation.org. Anything else? Any quote that you really like you want to share? Anything? Jimisms? Any Jimisms?
Yeah, a quote I would say is, there's no greater opportunity than to serve others.
Well, drop a mic, walk it out,
And Katy, thank you. This is great. It's just, I appreciate you letting me share my story. I'm a sales guy that has a different second dimension as far as giving and serving. And it's who I am and it's who we are. And it makes it really nice to lay your head on the pillow and know that you're helping to change the world.
Oh, heck yeah. I think I'm so glad we met, and you can find Jim on Not a Great Whisper podcast page at www.katyray.com, at The Real K Ray. We'll have all your links to your website. I appreciate you. Thank you for joining the show today.
Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. Appreciate your friendship. Thank you.